Hello to the Indian CBFC. Today, I present to you a hilarious comedy. It's called Houseful 5. देखो guys, mostly it's amazing. मतलब top tier comedy है. Just एक चीज. There are some jokes on a female character in this film where the focus primarily is on her body parts.
कॉमेडी में अगर बॉडी शेमिंग और ऑब्जेक्टिफिकेशन ना हो तो बिग डील क्या है? अप्रूव्ड.
Okay then. So there's another movie, Brad Pitt's F1. Guys, there are some kissing scenes and all. That's fine, na?
हॉलीवुड है, चलता है ये सब. नेक्स्ट.
There is one scene though, guys, where Brad Pitt wants to tell someone off, so he texts them a middle finger. That's fine, right?
Absolutely preposterous. Cut it. Not the scene, the finger. Just cut it. Make it a fist. It'll make sense.
Okay. Last two, guys. There is a Sunny Deol movie called Jat. It has extremely gory violence with heads being chopped off on a regular, by the way. I think it deserves an A rating, no?
Does it have Desh Bhakti sprinkled?
Yes.
UA it is.
But sir,
UA it is.
okay, sir. Fair enough. Superman is coming. There are two sequences where Superman and Lois Lane are kissing. That seems okay, right?
Cut it.
So it's not extremely like sexual or provocative. It's actually an expression of love and kind of beautiful.
अच्छा ना तेरा ना मेरा. Cut it so abruptly that it absolutely ruins the romantic moment.
What does that even mean?
Cut it in such a way कि ऐसा लगे कि we don't have a problem with kiss, but ज्यादा हो रहा है ये आजकल.
In a packed theater, as I heard audible gasps as the CBFC worked its magic, I quickly realized that to find logic or pragmatism in their ways is a losing battle. So I looked for the silver lining that the DCU is getting a fresh start. James Gunn being handed over the intimidating task of executing this full 360-degree rehaul while the Matt Reeves Batman functions as its own entity, and hopefully releases before Robert Pattinson becomes a geriatric. I have not seen such controversy around a Hollywood film and property since Barbie vs. Oppenheimer, where people were being judged dependent on whether they liked or disliked the movie on such a massive scale. We as an Indian audience are slightly desensitized to this because we have dealt with all kinds of polarization with films. If you like the film, you're a Sanghi. If you hate a film, you're a Liberandu, or vice versa. We have our own set of problems, but I, after a long time, saw absolute chaos with Superman reviews internationally. The Snyder cult wanted to dunk on anyone liking the product, the film with its political themes segregated liking or disliking the film to staunch MAGA supporters or liberals, and there was genuine confusion on whether the early takes of the film were even real because they were coming from influencers who got early access versus critics who are talking about films week in and week out. I'm here to report to all of you that despite the extremism of people absolutely detesting this film or thinking it's a masterpiece, I have to tell you that I sit somewhere in the middle where I liked the film but did not love it. I think if someone were to be absolutely realistic about the merits and demerits of this film, that would be the unanimous takeaway. It was good, but not great. And I think we can have a discussion regarding several aspects of the film without giving away major plot points. If I were to sum up the basic premise, it's important to note that the makers of Superman do not focus on the origin story of Kal-El and how he reached Earth. It is told to us that it's been 3 years since he has been carrying out his heroic ways, cementing that he is still somewhat of a rookie. James Gunn has emphasized that the film is heavily inspired by the All-Star Superman comics, but if I were to be accurate regarding its depiction from the several iterations of movies and shows I've seen regarding Superman, I think the most accurate parallel is the Superman 1996 animated series, having the same splash of color, zaniness, and heart of the popular series that went on for 3 seasons. Superman is dealing with Lex Luthor in this film, who, with his own army of enhanced humans, is doing everything in his might to stop Superman in his tracks, from actual battles to misusing information against him, changing the perception of the noble and just superhero, and influence the public to turn against him. How Superman battles the same, with the help of course of Lois Lane and the Justice Gang, forms the basic premise of Superman. Let's get to every element point by point and what I loved and disliked about the film. Please do write down your honest and unfiltered thoughts regarding this movie as well. Let's try to make it constructive versus absolutely toxic. What is implied? For anyone who is not an absolute comic book nerd, it would be tough to keep up with the cluttered screenplay of this film, as there is simply not just one conflict Superman is dealing with, and more importantly, several characters are introduced in the film with little to no background of what they represent, assuming that the audience is already familiar with their character powers and the team that they support. While this works for several of the characters, especially the case of the Justice Gang, whose impact brilliantly enhances the film, I think there could have been an attempt for a little more exploration regarding some of the characters and their motives, specifically Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. There are also sequences where the audience is to assume that the issue has been resolved, but the film never really addresses the problem. What was the message sent by Kal-El's parents? Did the message have any malicious intent? How did the Justice Gang help in the line of battle? Scenes are shown, solutions are met in the backdrop, but how is never really explored. Lex Luthor. There are several iterations of this character. The man has gone from a real estate mogul to a tech genius to an extension of the mad scientist that you may have seen in the comics of this character. I must tell you right off the bat that this may be one of the best portrayals of Lex Luthor that I have seen in film, surpassing it for me compared to Gene Hackman, Jesse Eisenberg, and even Kevin Spacey portrayals. Nicholas Hoult never comes across as gimmicky for his animosity and hatred towards Superman. He genuinely comes across as a seething hater who wishes for his downfall. What's also brilliant about the character is that he is always in control, being so equipped with his tech, so meticulous with the details that combat Superman, that you genuinely feel like this is the worthy opponent we all wanted. There are sequences that are genuinely chilling, especially one sequence where Lex plays Russian roulette. You get a glimpse of the lengths he is willing to go to get to his goal. However, I must say that Nicholas's valiant effort is somewhat squandered in the way James Gunn wants to wrap up things in the latter half of the film. Lex goes from someone so intimidating and in control to an absolute joke, being ragdolled in one scene, which made me feel that they almost abruptly snatched all the aura points away from him. CGI and visuals. I was actually pleasantly surprised on how the visuals of Superman seemed effective and engaging. I am not a fan of IMAX 3D, but those are the main shows that are present in all Delhi NCR regions, so I saw it in IMAX 3D. I prefer IMAX 2D, but hey, you get what you get. I'm anyway privileged to have an IMAX theater near me. This is a tricky task because so much of Superman's action sequences are with monsters who are digitally rendered and are also associated with him flying, and these can be extremely tricky to pull off, where the VFX can be jarring at times. But I must say the film was not a sore to the eyes at all, except just that one time that the film is set in Luthor Corp, and tell me if you guys experience the same. I just could not deal with the sun rays being right on the camera. I often had to look away the number of times the characters came in the frame and left only for the sun to flash right in front of my eyes. The portal sequence specifically, and this one frame, which is truly for the history books as Superman rises from the dust as the hope for humanity, were some of my favorite frames from the film. I must say though that while the film has some engaging action set pieces, you are warned, Superman gets beat the hell up in this film. I understand that he is 3 years into the job, but my god, was it tough to sit through how brutally he gets beaten up in each sequence, almost wanting help or backup in every action set piece. We're used to a way more dependable and strong Superman, and I guess James Gunn's attempt was to make him an extension of the equal humanity he strives for, but from the first frame to the last, man is struggling because he's fully getting thrashed left, right and center, especially by Ultra Human. My god, at one point of time, it seemed like Lex was playing the Wii on easy mode while thrashing him. Musical score. I'm no Snyder cult follower, okay, but I absolutely love Man of Steel and was more than willing to invest in this brighter and hopeful version of Superman. But I must say, other than the main theme of John Williams that is utilized as an homage in one of the sequences, I think the 2025 Superman would have largely benefited from a more uplifting score. I got flashbacks to what Hans Zimmer integrated in the first flight sequence of Man of Steel and how impactful that was. But I could not create a parallel of the same impact with this film, especially in one of the best action set pieces following Mr. Terrific. I think the beautifully crafted action sequence would have largely benefited from a better score. Speaking of which, the Justice Gang and Crypto. I think Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner was absolutely brilliant in this film. He was the one character who I believe generated laughs in theaters where it wasn't the forced James Gunn quips of integrated gags, but just an actor who aced his comic timing and delivery. Eddie Gathke as Mr. Terrific also has solid aura points in this film, almost nailing the dry cadence with which he delivers dialogues and the seamless ability to find a solution, always when the heroes are in a pickle. Hawkgirl is honestly a hit and a miss. There is a sequence that is attempted at showing what a badass she is. She has this one massy dialogue, but it misses the mark completely, and she fails to leave an impression. But I must say the integration of the Justice Gang as a whole, with Metamorpho's addition to the same, adds some great entertainment to this ride. Crypto was another addition that I loved. I found it genuinely heartwarming. His limitless energy, wild, untapped behavior, yet fierce loyalty accounted for some great scenes. Themes and politics. There is nothing subliminal about this film. If you were to clearly see the politics that the film aims to focus on, it has everything that the diaspora in the United States is dealing with right now. It has parallels with the conflict between Israel and Palestine or Russia and Ukraine, whatever you might deem fit. It has elements of illegal immigration, the treatment by the government, and the case of ICE cracking down on the immigration issues in the country. It's dealing with all of this, and it coincides with the loyalties of Superman and his status as an American. I can understand now why USA is so polarized about this film, because it is extremely political in its stance, and if you're knee deep into politics, you might get perturbed by it. And if you are not a part of the noise and the chatter online, you may be absolutely unaffected by its themes because you saw Soups and a pretty badass rendition on the big screen after so long. James Gunnisms and Superman and Lois. People were not lying when they said that the film does have its James Gunnisms, where the man has a tendency to undercut emotionally resonant scenes with forced humor, and this was especially true for the earnest moments shared between Lois and Superman at one point. I'm quite shocked about this because James Gunn did the earnest and beautiful moments so effectively in Guardians of Galaxy 3, where after a long time I sat for a Marvel movie and genuinely cried. The moment James lets a moment sit in this film, it's one of the most beautiful scenes from the film. I must say that I was the most impressed with the portrayals of Lois Lane, played by Rachel Brosnahan, and David Corenswet as Superman. I would have loved a little more Clark Kent because the man was barely seen in the film, but both the actors brought a sincerity to their roles. Lois Lane is inquisitive and an informed reporter through and through, and Clark has the ideals of what is just and right, having a naive but hopeful outlook to the world and humanity. I think the clips the makers shared prior to the release did a disservice to David, as in context to the film the scenes worked, but everyone assumed that he's just shouting and yelling for no reason, and it doesn't fit the demeanor of Superman, but I think he fit the part perfectly. A tough baton to follow with Henry Cavill, who I dearly loved as Superman. I must warn you already, I did roll my eyes at the mid and post-credit scenes of the film. You literally have no reason to stay for so long. However, I did enjoy my time with Superman. Already I have to warn you though, you do have to manage your expectations. It isn't a home run by any means. However, the dismissiveness towards it by a certain section of the audience is grossly exaggerated, making Superman and the fresh start to the DCEU a good but not great start. And that was a video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about Superman. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle is right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.